why around this time, I mean, before you were working with Stephen Hawking, I think around the 70s or so, why were physicists so interested in black holes, their temperature, their entropy, these sorts of questions?
Well, I wasn't around. Well, technically I was, but I was like 1 year old or something when most of these early discoveries happened. But my impression is, well, people were studying black holes for a number of reasons. I mean, I think it must have been clear that they were objects that were in some ways unique to Einstein's theory of gravity and had no analog in other parts of physics. So it would make sense, I think, to study them if you're trying to understand how to fit gravity in with the rest of physics. Maybe black holes both explain why it's so hard to do that because they're unique to gravity, but also then perhaps give us a hint for how to do it. I feel as I'm saying this that I'm editorializing a little bit. I mean, this is how it played out. I mean, I think this is what I just said is actually true about black holes. I don't really know whether that hope motivated people working on them at the time. There was a practical, well, by my standards, practical reason, which is that black holes, when they merge with each other or with other compact objects, would emit a huge amount of gravitational waves, and people had started to become interested in detecting such gravitational waves. One of Stephen Hawking's early classic papers, which is now known as the area theorem, it stated that the area of the event horizon of a black hole cannot ever decrease. And the event horizon is sort of the surface that you better not cross if you want to get back out. And it was a theorem of enormous fundamental importance in physics, but the way that he sold it at the time was that it would give him an upper bound on how much energy could be emitted by the merger of two black holes, and therefore, what is the most optimistic amount of gravitational waves that we could hope would be emitted in such a process. So that's one thing that I'm aware of that people were certainly interested in at the time. Another very important foundational paper was by Jacob Bekenstein. And there the famous story is that, his graduate advisor, he was a grad student, his graduate advisor, John Wheeler, asked him, well, it seems weird that we can destroy entropy by throwing it into a black hole. So in physics, one of the most fundamental laws is this second law of thermodynamics, that the entropy cannot decrease. In other words, things become more disordered over time, not more ordered. And one of the most important steps, I think, in understanding the significance of black holes was Wheeler's worry that they could be used to undermine that law.
You said you cannot destroy entropy by throwing it into a black hole. Did you mean information, or are
well, it's two sides of a coin.
It's
two sides of the same coin. Entropy is sort of the information you don't have. If I give you a single particle, maybe it has something called spin that can point up or down, right? And I don't tell you which of these it is, then as far as you're concerned, it's 50-50. Then you would say this particle has an entropy corresponding to two possibilities that you don't know which one it is. Conversely, I could send you information by giving you this particle, and I'll tell you, well, once you measure the spin, if it's up, it means that the weather is good here, and if it's down, it means that the weather is bad where I am. And so in that same sense, once you learn which it is, then it's information. And a particle might only be able to carry like one bit of information or something. But if I give you a big box of particles, I might be able to send you a lot more information. But again, before you look, if I don't tell you anything about it, then it's just the information that you don't yet have is the entropy.
So the potential information carried by a particle is its potential number of microstates, which is connected to its entropy?
Yeah, we usually take the log of that, the logarithm, to quantify the information or the entropy. but it's very directly related to the number of states it could be in.
And I think I cut you off as you were talking, though, about Bekenstein's crucial contribution at this time.
Yeah, so he was encouraged by Wheeler to worry about something that I think most people would just not have worried about. It's the fact that if you have a black hole, let me first just start with the real world, right? So in the real world, it is certainly possible to decrease the entropy of a system. For example, if I have a glass of water and I put it in the freezer, then when I take it out and it's a frozen block of ice, its entropy will be lower than when I put it in. But the freezer, in the process of freezing this water, will have actually heated up the air in my room by more than enough to allow the air to be in far more states than before. And it will have increased the entropy. And you can check it's going to increase the entropy of the air by more than to make up for the lost entropy of the water when it became ice. It seemed like black holes are like such a fridge, except without the price of heating up the air in the room. That if I instead just throw the glass of water into a black hole, the entropy is just gone, and nothing makes up for it. The reason that was a weird thing to worry about is that most boring people would have said, the entropy is inside the black hole. Just, jump in. And I mean, maybe you don't like to go inside black holes, but that's your problem. There it is. It's inside the black hole. Why are you complaining? And yet somehow, I think Wheeler understood two things. He understood, first of all, that if you wait too long before you jump in after the glass of water, you won't be able to reach it even inside the black hole. It will have sort of been destroyed in a singularity and you can't get to it. And he must have also felt that if nobody can verify that the second law still holds, that's really bad. Physical laws should have some operational meaning. You should be able to check that the entropy did not go down. And so if you can't reach this thing, and he was not happy with this. For whatever reason, he had the right sense that this was something to be unhappy about, that most people would have just shrugged off. And so he gave it to his student, Jacob Bekenstein, and said, figure something out. And Bekenstein understood that Hawking had just proven that the area of a black hole event horizon can never decrease. And to a physicist, that immediately reminds you of the second law of thermodynamics. Like there's pretty much nothing else in physics of any fundamental significance that cannot decrease. And so Bekenstein figured, well, maybe what happens if I throw the glass of water into the black hole is, first of all, what's obviously going to happen is the black hole is going to get bigger. Its surface area is going to get bigger. Maybe it's going to get bigger by enough that if I somehow associate black hole entropy to the surface area of a black hole, if I invent this idea, first of all, that black holes have entropy, they have quantum states, and if I secondly propose that that entropy is somehow given by the surface area of a black hole, maybe then it works like putting the glass in the freezer, and and the thing that's analogous to the room in the air in the room getting heated up would be the black hole gets bigger. That's what compensates. The area increases. If I declare that area is entropy, then I might be, I might have a chance of saving the second law of thermodynamics. So he called that the generalized second law of thermodynamics, that the entropy of a black hole plus everything else cannot decrease. Maybe he shouldn't have called it the general. It's just the second law. Once you accept that black holes have entropy, but that was a radical proposal. And it was radical for many reasons. One was that, when we say that the glass of water has an entropy, we have at least some idea of, and in principle we can define exactly what the quantum states are that correspond to all these possibilities. The water molecules can be in different places, they can wiggle in different ways. And we know this because we have some notion of what the microscopic structure of water is. It's made out of molecules. For black holes, there was absolutely no analogous notion. There's no sense of what it's... when we still, in general, have no idea what the microscopic states of black holes are. But by this argument, Bekenstein was able to argue that they have some, that black holes are in some sense like things, even though, when you're falling in, it's supposed to be just like empty space, and okay, maybe you get destroyed inside, but it's not, for somebody who falls in, it's not a thing. For somebody far away, apparently it's more like a thing. And it's a thing that can wiggle in different ways. But Bekenstein's proposal was much more, it reached much further than that, because first of all, it was a statement that you can look at a classical property of space-time, and it will tell you how many quantum states there are, without any further information about what this thing is made of. There's no analog of that in any classical theory of any other force, right? Moreover, gravity not only knows about its own quantum states, but it also must somehow know about the quantum states of matter. Because if Bekenstein's scheme was going to work, well, the black hole has to increase in area by enough to make up for what you're throwing in. How does it even know how many quantum states a glass of water has? Right? How does gravity know that? We actually still don't really know how gravity knows that. It's just that we can check a million examples and it always works. Like it's true that basically you can't. It has to do with the fact that the information content of matter systems seems to be connected in a really deep way with how much energy they have and how big they are. And those last two things are related to how much a black hole will increase in area when you throw the thing in. And a lot of my own work has been on making that relationship more precise and also showing how general it is, that it goes far beyond the realm of black holes and adding objects to black holes, and it really governs. There's a relationship between the area of surfaces anywhere in the universe and the information content of matter systems.